Welcome to the Phil and Ben podcast, the weekly chat show for good souls, life lovers, and world helpers. My name's Ben. This is Phil joining me. We're both very happy to be here. This is the third episode now, so we're beginning to just get our groove, although still trying to iron out some creases along the way, which is just part of the evolution process. So I hope you can bear with us as we just navigate this podcast together. Phil, how are you feeling, mate?
Afternoon, mate. Feeling good. I've been doing I did my fruit fast, which obviously happened. Well, fruit diet, that's over and done with. And I'm on some nice little herbs to cool my organs down, because my venture has been making me overheat and work too much, like a car's engine that's on a long journey. And I went to see my massage lady Hong, who's just one of the best masseurs you can come across. This is after our last podcast, and I went to see her, and she studied for about 3 years part-time Thai traditional medicine, which is similar to Ayurveda in India, or traditional Chinese medicine in China. And so she's learned all about herbs and so on. So I've got these 4 different herbs for cooling down my kidneys, my liver, my lungs, my heart, all the machinery. So I'm feeling good, actually. And I've got more energy this week, and all the vague symptoms I was getting, which I traced back in my own health books to the kidneys. We're on the big fix, on the big mend, and I have to work more smartly and less hard.
Okay.
How about you?
Yeah, I mean, the common theme as we do these recordings is me kind of decompressing from the day that I've already had. And I'll just share it again quickly with the viewers, because it might make some of you just feel a lot better because you might not have had such an intense day as me. But you know, it starts with, and for you, Phil, just so you understand what's behind me meeting with you in these calls. Basically, getting up, usually being woken by the children. If not, I'm up at 5 doing my morning routine, getting the children ready for school, which involves a lot of activity. You know, with 3 children, it's, you know, like sometimes brushing your own teeth can be boring, right? Right. Brushing 4 sets of teeth, it's just a pain in the ass, right? Brushing hair, all of that, and then getting them off to school. And then Wednesdays and Mondays, I volunteer at their school. I go and read and do English lessons, which is really intense. You know, you're going to a school with 100 children.
Wow.
And so I kind of, sorry, go on.
Wow, no, 100 children, that's quite a lot down there, isn't it?
I think just less, about 80. But, you know, it's pretty intense. Good fun, but it's, you know, there's no gap in between those 2 things, getting the children ready for school and then going. And just this morning, actually, I forgot I was meant to do it. So I had a 5-minute warning to get dressed, get the materials and get ready. And then I walk back from there, literally with 45 minutes to get the house turned around to welcome the toddler group. Right. So there's no break there. The toddlers arrive. Well, that's a minus break. It's the opposite, the most extreme opposite of a break you could imagine, hosting 6 to 7 toddlers. That ends at 1:30. We begin this recording at 2, you know. And so by the time I'm sat down with you, I do need the time to decompress. So to all the listeners out there as well, you know, bear with me as I stutter along at the beginning of these episodes. But by and large, pretty well. Super blessed to be living in Thailand and living this life rich with nature, children, dogs, you know, family, good food, working on the finances and the empire and the world helping missions that I know you are as well, Phil. But yeah, feeling pretty good. And that world helping angle, you know, that we both feel intrinsically drawn to, this podcast is part of that journey, right?
Yeah, totally. Well, it's life is a journey, and we have to remember that the journey is only taking place today. So Wednesday is your life.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll take that on board. Think into it. And so, yeah, if you've listened to the first two episodes, you will know that we're kind of building a format, and the regular features begin with a report and reflection, both from myself and then from Phil. So my report and reflection, we've kind of given it a name now, Phil, which I think for now we're going to go with media manipulation. And each week I'll be comparing naturalnews.com with the BBC, two extreme opposites and kind of polarizing positions in the media world. BBC with the largest global budget for annually to produce media to the globe, and Natural News, kind of much more extreme, alternative, sort of pioneering, truth-speaking outlet. And this week, with the time that we have, I think the focus is the things that drew my attention were obviously in the BBC. The one that's got everyone talking, and I know that you're aware of this, Phil, is the Russell Brand witch hunt.
Very topical.
Very topical. And, in this little report section, I'd just like to share something that no one else has shared to date. That, first of all, one thing, let's start with here. Mike Adams, in Natural News, he reported on this as well. He's an American sort of Texan, so Russell Brand is far away from his circle of interest, really. It's not someone he follows, but he knows he's a truth speaker and he understands the role of the media. Mm-hmm. And so he was very open to say, to follow the dots on the patterns of people like Russell Brand, such as Andrew Tate, such as Donald Trump, these people that go against the globalist agenda, and the pattern of people that are branded and essentially, just attacked consistently, and the theme that those people happen to not agree with the globalist agenda. So for someone that is unable to see this pattern, it's pretty obvious by now that if the media is attacking you consistently, then it's probably because you're not staying in tow with the globalist agenda. So Mike Adams was very aware and astute in pointing that out, but also I think the timing of this is incredible. And what I mean by that is that, first of all, as Mike Adams was saying, this was 15 years ago. To bring it out from 15 years ago, these accusations, and they're unnamed accusers so far. So these are accusations, we don't know who they're coming from. They've been long-standing, but the timing, Phil, is so interesting, because what was the recent, not accusation, the person that was most recently attacked consistently on a daily basis, the male that was headlines on the BBC website again and again and again for about 2 or 3 weeks. Forgot his name, but do you know who it was?
I'm not sure. I don't follow the BBC anymore.
Oh, fair enough. The Spanish football president.
Oh, yeah, the president of Spain. The Latin culture where men kiss men, men kiss children, men kiss women, men kiss everybody.
Right, but when this president of the Spanish Football Association, who was presenting the trophy to the Women's World Cup winning team, they'd won the World Cup.
Yeah.
He kissed a woman on the lips.
A fellow Spaniard as well.
A fellow Spaniard. And it was a celebratory kiss, right? Now, there's a lot that could be a whole area of discussion, okay? In terms of, was it right? Was it wrong? Did he go too far? Rare. But what was really clear was how that man was hunted down and scapegoated as disrespecting women, not respecting the women's space, and it just so happened. So he's now retired, forcibly been retired. Yeah, the result of the media manipulation, and again, that actual event could go under extreme debate. It is controversial, and Was he right to do it? Was he wrong to do it? There's lots of different angles to look at, but the absolute attack on him for that moment, that single moment of kiss in extreme euphoria and celebration with your fellow country person, right, while presenting, it was clear and obvious that he was a target for the mainstream media. And only a week or two after he had announced his retirement, the whole Russell Brand thing's brought out of the bag, i.e., another male that is invading the rights of women, which is a kind of alongside a common theme of men being attacked, right? And so I just think it's important to recognize that in the world of media manipulation, that the timing of this, no one's actually talked about the timing of this in regards to the mainstream media, because it's fresh in people's minds, this whole notion of men overstepping the line, not respecting women, on the back of that Spanish president, on that case study. And now with 2 weeks less than, don't give that any time to settle. Let's use that. My belief is that they probably had this stored as like something that we could use against Russell Brand when the time's right. I don't know. This is just me thinking what could be, because the timing is so poignant in terms of it following that Spanish president. So that was obviously something that was comparing the two media outlets, BBC and Natural News. And then two more things that I think are worth sharing is an interview that Mike Adams conducted with a professor called Michael Chosudowski. Chosudowski. How did you know that?
I know him from Global Research.ca from Canada. I was following them at the beginning of the century.
But how did you know I was going to say that then? Did you?
Because you said Michael and then you stuttered, and I knew that it was a difficult surname, so I immediately thought of him.
Incredible, yeah. So, well, it's great that you've heard of him. I'd never heard of the man.
Yeah,
it's an hour and 10 minutes, and for anyone out there, the likelihood is if you're listening to this podcast, you're already at least sitting on the fence about the events of the world right now, kind of building an awareness or questioning what's going on. You're not what some might call sheeple, just kind of following or whatever is in the trend and following the global mainstream globalist agenda. Okay, this man, if you are in any way looking for some real hard-hitting stats and figures that just probe deep on things like the vaccine, on the COVID narrative, on the Ukraine-Russia war, this interview between Mike Adams and Professor Mikhail Phil.
Well, I'm not sure.
Chusodowski,
yeah.
we'll call him. Yeah. It's on Brighton.com. It's definitely worth listening to, even yourself, Phil, right? And then the final thing that I want to share is something that Mike Adams raised, which was just it opens a massive can of worms, and we're not going to go there in this episode, but it was Mike Adams' position on Apple's new advert, in which there's a small section where an actor who's acting as an employee of Apple quotes, and this is not verbatim, but something along the lines of, as Apple, this person speaking on behalf of Apple in this advert, we want to completely eliminate carbon from the environment. So it's part of the climate change narrative and agenda driven by the globalists and the big tech platforms and the governments, right? But it's something that Mike Adams keeps bringing up again and again and again and again, is that we are carbon-based life forms. And the fundamental process that is really at the bottom of life on Earth across all species, all life, is photosynthesis, of which carbon dioxide is an essential ingredient. So this attack on carbon is in itself attack on life. And for Apple, this company who have got the logo of an apple with a bite out of it, which is something that is worth discussing at a later episode as well, are openly saying, we will not stop until we have eliminated carbon from the environment. when you step back and look at it in the grand scheme of things, it's slightly concerning. So that's my kind of synopsis of the comparison between the BBC and Natural News. There's so much that those two news outlets share. We can't cover it all. This is just a kind of a running theme of what to look at, the sort of the things that are really at the forefront of both outlets. And that really rounds it up for this week.
Well, these people are sick. You attack carbon, you're attacking life. If you destroy carbon, you're destroying life. Full stop, end of story. Carbon is life. Carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. These are the building blocks of life. It's nuts. Oh man, Russell Brand, another bad man, and what was the one that came before Russell Brand? The Spanish president, another bad man. President. I mean, come on, hissing is an expression of humanity. Honestly, it's unbelievable. My book corner will nicely go. I didn't know the stories you would be coming up with, but let's for the viewers as well, bear in mind what Ben's been talking about when I read my extract from my book, because he's talking about deep-seated problems faced by and caused by humankind. And I often look at all humans together as humankind. And if we can understand what humankind is facing, then we can look at how we are doing compared to the general human condition. And what you've described, Ben, there, a whole load of it is just insanity. It reminds me from before I came to Thailand when I was a young adult. I noticed back then that there was a pattern in the media, in the British media. They would build people up. And I noticed this first big time. I noticed this with David Beckham in 1998 in the World Cup. He was a young lad. He was about 20. He'd been built up and built up and built up. This great new Man United footballer. And I think he was going out with one of the Spice Girls at the time. And they're building him up. And this is what they do. Oh, look, here's this great man and here's this great woman or whoever. It's usually a man, actually, in celebrity world or in the sporting world. And the moment they get the chance, they take their rug out of their feet and knock them down. So they build up these mountains just to destroy them, because if they haven't built somebody up, they've got nothing to destroy. And I'm sorry, but most of the media, the mainstream media, the legacy media, are forces of destruction. That's all they want to do, is destroy people. Very interesting, you talked about the timing. It's one thing after another coming out in the mainstream media to try and distract us, but more importantly, to divide us. And this is why that we've got the attack on men now. We've had the attack on Muslims, on Christians, on white people, on racists, on misogynists, and now it's just outright attack on men for the last few years. So yeah, it's trial by jury with Russell Brand. Sorry, it's not trial by jury. It's trial by media and the court of public opinion. And what comes out in the media, even if you don't listen to it yourself on the news or you don't read it in the newspaper, it's all over social media. So everybody's talking about it. So this is the new topic. And so Russell Brand is talked about as if he's a lump of mud, if he's just a speck of dirt, not a real human being with a heart and so on. And so people have decided, without ever listening to him, whether he's a good man or not. And if they don't like him, must be a bad man, jail him. He must be bad. He must have raped the girls. Put him in jail. There hasn't even been a police report. Utter madness.
Yeah. So, I mean, this again. Before we move on to that section, your report and reflection, Phil. Just to say to the viewers and the listeners that this is such a small segment of time to such a huge area. These two outlets produce masses of content, but it's really looking more at the bigger picture and just using these two outlets as a point of comparison, as a window into the bigger world of media manipulation. And there's various points yet to be made. For example, one thing that I would say in regards to the last week's episode, and we were talking about the revelation of Obama potentially being gay. Well, that was an accusation produced by someone that is apparently very dubious. They're not a very credible person. And it almost makes me wonder, that whole media manipulation world is so carefully thought through that narratives are woven even before we can establish what that purpose is. So there might be a chance that this whole Obama story has been put out with us to set something up. You understand that we're not even aware of yet. So it's an area that we have to tread carefully, but also just kind of understanding that it is such an important area of this global environment because it is the narrative.
Well, it's yeah, it is. It's very easy for the media to do this because they follow set procedures and set narratives. This accusing somebody of having sex with this person or raping that person or whatever, it's such an old playbook. It's the same story that's been used throughout history. I think it even goes back to Socrates' time in ancient Greece or Rome or whatever. It's corrupt people in power trying to keep everybody away from threatening their power because anyway, it's.
And as good souls, life lovers and world helpers, we need to be aware of this so that we can look objectively at the narratives that are being pushed and then really just sideline them, ignore them, basically, see them for what they are.
And don't be divided. Don't be divided. Black, white, Muslim, Christian, Hindu, British, Russian, Mongolian, Peruvian, male, female, gay, straight, whatever. We're all human beings. We're all human beings. And while they divide us, they keep their power and they're miserable gits. And
it's up to us for this spiritual revolution, for this transitionary period. It's up to us, humanity. It's down to us to take responsibility to be the change makers.
Completely. And it leads very nicely to this week's report and reflection for myself. And if you're new to our podcast viewers, my one is called Book Corner.
I was just going to do like a book corner.
Oh, excellent. That's much better. So mine is the Book Corner, and I select a book from my shelf, and I've got books on all matters because I've been investigating the human condition for my whole life, including when I was a kid. I don't know why, but that's what I've been doing. So I've got lots of great books, and when I read books, I just wish I could tell the world what I'm reading because it's really useful stuff. So I'm going to take.
Now you can.
Well, yes, and so I'm taking little extracts from books. I'm going to read out my extract. Today's takes about 5 minutes, so do bear with me and viewers and Ben as you're listening to my book extract. Keep one memory cell on what we've just been covering, what Ben's just been talking about in this, this general world out there where the media seek to divide us through various labels and treat human beings as if they're little balls to flick around at whim, as if we're pebbles to be thrown into the water. Terrible. Throwing people trash.
Are you going to tell us the book? Can you show us the book, Phil?
Yeah, just coming.
Oh, right. No, I just thought you were going to start reading. So
no. I'm getting my brain together. I want to tell a quick story. This is the book. It's by Osho. That is Osho. It's not called yoga because you can't see the rest of it. It's called The Essence of Yoga.
Can you show me again? Because I cannot see that at all. Where does it say the essence?
It's just above. It's in black writing. You can't see it. You can't see it on the screen.
Oh, Lord, they got that wrong, didn't they, in terms of the design? Because I can't see the word at all, even if I'm looking for it.
Doesn't matter what's on the cover. It's what's inside that counts.
Let's hear it.
And he's not really talking about yoga. He's talking about life as usual. I'd like to quickly tell a story I'll tell the story another time because I'll tell the story another time. Anyway, Osho, I have approximately over 30 books by Osho. And I first came across Osho in 2002 when I moved up to Chiang Mai, Ben. I had a lot of free time in those days and I was researching all 9/11 and all those things, but I was also really diving into my spiritual investigations. So this is rather spiritual. So we were talking about spirituality last week and we were trying to define spirituality. So if you did watch our second episode, this is morphing into the third one. And if you didn't watch it, go back and watch it.
Titled, what does spirituality mean to you? Was that the title of the second episode?
Yeah, that was, yeah. So this is Osho, and just bear in mind that Osho never wrote a book. He's got hundreds of books out, but they're all transcriptions of his talks to his, what they were called sannyasins, who were the people that would go and stay at his ashram. And he also went to America and built one up there. But he was chased out of the country because he was getting too close to the marrow bone of truth. Anyway, he's one of the spiritual masters of all time. He died in the late 80s. So this is Osho, The Essence of Yoga. And I've got a question for you, Ben, and for all you viewers. You don't have to, well, the viewers, you can think of your answer. Ben, give me your immediate answer, okay? As soon as you hear the question, give me your immediate answer. So, are you ready? Are you selfish? Are you selfish, viewer? Ben, are you selfish?
I'd say self-centered.
No, are you selfish? Yes or no? Come on, don't be a politician here. There's only two answers.
Okay.
Or maybe, or middle.
A little bit.
Okay, excellent. Right, what about you viewers? Are you selfish? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? So this is the chapter. The chapter's called Selfishness, the Only Unselfishness. And the chapter begins, obviously, all his sannyasins filing questions, and each chapter begins with a question. And this is question 1 for this chapter. How can a man with love in his heart be selfish? I'm going to read one little bit, which is in the middle of the passage to start with. And then I'm going to read my 2 or 3 pages. A person who is deeply interested in his happiness is always interested in the happiness of others also, but not for them. Deep down, he is interested in himself. That's why he helps. If in the world everybody is taught to be selfish, the whole world will be happy. There will be no possibility for misery. So that's a middle bit. Let's get back to the beginning. Love is the most selfish thing in the world. Love is basically love of oneself. If you love yourself, only then can you love somebody else. If you don't love yourself, to love anybody else is almost impossible. The quality of love has to grow within you. Only then can the fragrance reach somebody else. If you don't love yourself, you can only pretend that you love others. Your love will be pseudo, false, a deception. In 99 cases out of 100, this is what is happening because humanity has been debarred, conditioned. Every child has been conditioned not to love himself, but to love others. This is impossible. That cannot happen. That is not the way things are. Every child has been taught not to be selfish, and that's the only way of being. If you are not selfish, you will not be altruistic, remember. If you are not selfish, you will not be unselfish, remember. Only a very deeply selfish person can be unselfish. But this has to be understood because it sounds like a paradox. What is the meaning of being selfish? The first basic thing is to be self-centered. The second basic thing is to always look for one's blissfulness. If you are self-centered, you will be selfish whatsoever you do. You said self-centered, Ben. You may go and serve people, but you will do it only because you enjoy it, because you love doing it. You feel happy and blissful doing it. You feel yourself doing it. You are not doing any duty. You are not serving humanity. You are not a great martyr. You are not sacrificing. These are all nonsensical terms. You are simply being happy in your own way. And I skip a bit. A self-centered person is always seeking his happiness. And this is the beauty of it, that the more you seek your happiness, the more you will help others to be happy, because that is the only way to be happy in the world. If everybody else around you is unhappy, you cannot be happy, because man is not an island. He is part of the vast continent. If you want to be happy, you will have to help others who surround you to be happy. Only then, and only then, can you be happy. We come back to the beginning bit I said, back in context. A person who is deeply interested in his happiness is always interested in the happiness of others also, but not for them. Deep down, he is interested in himself. That's why he helps. If in the world everybody is taught to be selfish, the whole world will be happy. There will be no possibility for misery. Now I'll move on a little bit. A happy person is so happy, he wants to be left alone to be happy. He wants his own privacy to be preserved. He wants to live with flowers and poetry and music. Why should he bother to go to the wars, be killed and kill others? Why should he be murderous and suicidal? Only unselfish people can do that, because they have never known the bliss that is possible to them. They have never had any experience what it is to be, what it is to celebrate. They have never danced. They have never breathed life. They have not known any divine glimpse. All those glimpses come from deep happiness, from deep contentment. An unselfish person is uprooted, uncentered. He is in deep neurosis. He is against nature. He cannot be healthy and whole. He is fighting against the current of life, being, existence. He is trying to be unselfish. He cannot be unselfish because only a selfish person can be unselfish. When you have happiness, you can share it. When you don't have, how can you share it? To share, in the first place, one must have it. An unselfish person is always serious, deep down ill, in anguish. He has missed his own life. I'm thinking about today's world. And remember, when you miss your life, you become murderous, suicidal. Whenever a person lives in misery, he would like to destroy. Misery is destructive, happiness creative. There is only one creativity, and that is of blissfulness, cheerfulness, delight. When you are delighted, you want to create something, maybe a toy for children, maybe a poem, maybe a painting, something. Whenever you are too delighted in life, how can you express it? You create something, something or the other. But when you are miserable, you want to crush and destroy something. You would like to become a politician. You would like to become a soldier. You would like to create some situation in which you can be destructive. And that's my book corner extract this week. And I would add the media to that. So there you go, Ben.
Thank you.
Are you selfish, mate?
Well, I answered self-centered. And although I find it a little bit difficult to follow a lot of that, given the fact that I'm coming from, because it's quite paradoxically written, because it is essentially the transcript of a speech, as you said, right? So a lot of the time when you're reading that, I was finding myself trying to work things out while you're reading on, right? And then then there's something, the next line is equally as paradoxical. And on the way there, I didn't understand, I'm kind of playing catch up. But the reason why I said self-centered, and I think this is along the lines of what he's saying, is that I believe that, yeah, it's looking after our intrinsic happiness first allows us to present and kind of touch the world in a more wholesome way, right? Whereas if we are out there and we're emptying ourselves and we're completely subservient, just unselfish, as you would call it, that might translate into an emptiness, a fatigue, that then means that we can't present the most glowing version of ourselves in everyday interactions. And so, yeah, self-centeredness, I would call it, not selfishness, but then you're just it's just about the play on words. What made you want to bring that to this week's episode, Phil? What was it?
Because we're talking about spirituality last week, and I'm going to talk more about it in a minute after this. Spirituality is one of these words that have been hijacked, and so nobody's really very certain what it actually means, and it's actually quite difficult to define it. We were having our own different definitions last week. It's actually quite difficult to define it because it's actually a thing beyond language. It's a sort of a way of life. But one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up is that in order to define what spirituality is and to know what it is, and if it's something we want in our life, which I would very much say you do, but it's not clear. We need to know why we need it and where it is and why we haven't got it. So we've got, the whole spirituality needs a full discussion. And one telling thing here is that what he said in the first paragraph, every child has been conditioned not to love himself, but to love others. That is impossible. That cannot happen. So what Osho is basically saying is that love, we understand in our material world, I want to find a partner who will love me for who I am. But if I am not loving them for who I am, I don't know who I am. So wrapped up in this whole spiritual thing is, do we even know who we are? Now, the answer is no, we don't, not until we go on a spiritual journey, because every child has been conditioned to not love other people, but to love them, to not love themselves, but to love other people. But if you don't know who you are, if you can't love yourself, if you haven't got that love within you, how can you give it out to the world? You can't do it. So there's the love that they sing about in the songs, and the love about where you want the ideal woman so that you can just be you. No, you have to be you first, and then you'll find your ideal woman. You have to love yourself first. We spoke about it last week. You have to respect yourself first. You have to love yourself first. And in our world, we are taught by the religions and everything, don't be selfish, don't think about yourself, don't talk about yourself, don't do anything for yourself, you're here to serve other people. But we're stuffed up, we're screwed up, we're not in a good way. So how can we be happy? How can we love other people when we're not in a good way? We have to correct this. And that's what the spiritual revolution is. It's the correcting of our terrible conditioning and our terrible schooling, which is an anti-education. And I know it touches your heart because you're a Montessori teacher and you teach the young ones. And the way you're teaching the young ones is basically teaching them as human beings. Now, I don't know if you can do it at that age, but I've spoken to a friend of mine who's an ex-head teacher, and he says that you can get 4-year-olds to do all kinds of things, and they can grasp concepts very easily at 4 years old. So I think to answer your question, and I wanted to say something else. To answer your question, it's selfishness. If you look at the word self-ish, so it's taking care of yourself, putting yourself in maximum happiness and health that you can be in, and you have to learn what to do because you've been conditioned away from that. So it's not easy at the beginning, and that's why I'm onto spiritual revolution. It's why I wrote my book, to help people become spiritual and to regain their human essence. But we have to become selfish before we're of much use to other people. I think that's the key thing. Yeah.
With as a sort of, because obviously this is a big topic, and I also want to sometimes, as much as possible, keep this practical. And so a practical example in relation to what you said about the children that I see with the toddlers is that when they're at that age, the term that I've been taught, and I think is very nice, is that children, the human being, is egocentric.
Say that again. Sorry, can you say that again?
A human being in the early years, before around 2.5 to 3.5, where there becomes this psychological birth of self. Before that, they are egocentric. So a toddler doesn't care what other people think about their screaming. There's no consideration. They want something, they're going to grab it. There's no consideration about other people's feelings, what's socially acceptable. They're egocentric. And so that can pose quite an issue in an environment where you've got multiple toddlers interacting with each other among resources that they want. And what I've noticed is that the automatic direction from a parent of a child of their own, when another child wants something, is in Thai, breng, 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 which means share, 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 share.
Who's saying that?
The parent of the child. And I immediately say, in this environment, we don't teach them to share, we teach them not to snatch. And there's a very key difference here. So that child has got a resource and they are engaged with it. It's theirs. It's theirs to be self-centered with, to lose themselves in concentration. and do with it what they will until they're finished. And in that moment, and during that whole time, it's the responsibility of the other children not to snatch, not to distract, not to take from. And so that is kind of supporting that element of selfishness, but also saying it's not allowing other people to impose themselves upon you. And I think that's the point that I wanted to make with regards to what you're reading, is that selfishness, I think, is fine as long as it's not at the expense of others,
So Osho's message very much was there that if you want to be unselfish, and if you want to help other people, and if you want to be of use to the community, you have to first understand selfishness. You have to make yourself a happy person. So by making yourself happy and healthy and so on, by necessity, you have to turn your attention inwards and take care of yourself. Time and time again, I've met people, and I've heard about people, and I've listened to people telling me that they're the helpers of, they help everybody, and everybody, oh, Mavis, she's such an angel. She's always helping everybody, always got time of the day for everybody. But then it turns out later on down the road that poor old Mavis is deeply unhappy and very stressed out and so on, because there came a point where she snapped. She forgot about herself.
On the flip side of it, Mavis did not forget about herself and was so selfish and self-centered in following her own heart's desires that it put her in a position to give abundantly.
But then she won't break down at the end of it.
That's what I'm saying. Just like for me, I've been self-centered, quote unquote selfish, pretty much all my life in following the path less traveled because I wanted to. It was not what I was told to do. It was not what was expected of me. It was the alternative path less traveled. And I believe that has put me into a position of sort of inner fulfillment and satisfaction, where I can give every day to these toddlers, to the school, to my Thai family, to the local village community, to strangers. When I meet them in the street, there's an energetic sort of offering from me, and it's something that allows me to, through the law of attraction, get good energy back. But that comes from a place of
self-centeredness,
because I've looked after myself. And now I'm in a position energetically to give to give abundantly.
Because you've built strong foundations for yourself. I think historically,
I put myself first.
Yes, strong foundations. You've founded and you've grounded yourself. So now you're in a position to be of use and help and can be loving towards other people, and other people will tremendously benefit from your sharings. But if you haven't got anything, as Osho said, you can't share it.
And to listeners out there and viewers, and even to us, because it's always an evolving process. If in any way you are thinking right now, what would I like to do for myself? What is something that I feel I've wanted and haven't given myself? It could be it could be half a day away somewhere. It could be buying yourself a small item of clothing or a small gift. It could be a daily practice, habit, or ritual that you think you want to bring into your own life. But it's about you thinking about yourself, not worrying about what it means to other people. And I just want to put that through this podcast right now to anyone watching, that, take this on board and embrace that in your own life. What can you do for yourself? Forgetting irrelevant of about the other people in your life, putting yourself wholly first, because ultimately, if this stands true, and I think there's a degree of substance to what we're saying, that the other people in your life are going to benefit from it through you becoming a better, more fulfilled, happier person.
There's total substance in what you're saying, not thinking. There is total substance in it, and
I'm just trying to, tread carefully.
Well, I'm untreading you carefully. I know what you're doing, but I wanted to say that, and I was
just setting you up, Phil. I was just setting you up to come.
One of the things I've observed throughout my whole life is is, and I have it in me, but only minimally, because I've worked on it and I've got rid of it. But there's this worry about what other people will think about me and what I'm saying. There's a constant worry. What will other people think? What will they say about me? Will I look stupid? Will I look silly? Will I be seen to have failed, and so on? And this is because we're sort of spiritually empty, because we were taught from the early age: share, love others, forget about yourself. So we don't really even know who we are until we start investigating who we are. But if we're constantly worried about offending other people, wokeism and virtue signaling, I mean, look, if I'm virtuous, I don't have to signal it. I'll just be it. And so virtue signaling is a result of being of never having learned how to be selfish, and so you are empty, and so you need to try and prove that you're a good person. But everybody knows what a good person looks like, because they're doing it. They're being a good person, and we all want to be a good person, but we've all been screwed up in our schooling. Love others, don't talk about yourself, and so it goes on.
Yeah. So I mean, to bring this part to a close, because it's been an interesting topic, I think that last point you made is something for me to take away. And I think many people struggle with this. What do other people think about me? And certainly that has been, in the name of transparency and self-therapy through this podcast, that's something that has kind of hindered my path in life, I would say, is the concern about what other people will think. And I think over the next week or two, I'll be evolving my own projects in a way that will allow me to share it with the world. And so I'll be overcoming that. What do people think of me, through this release of the project, but also that kind of leads on to the fact that you inspired me to consolidate what I want to do, that I'm going to share with the world in the next couple of episodes, with regards to your spiritual revolution epiphany. And so maybe as a way to transition into the final part of this podcast, the table topic, what it is that you would like to bring to the table this week, Phil.
Right. Well, it's really, I mean, our book reports, my book corner's gone on longer, but it melds into this table topic. But just to close what you said there, there's a wonderful phrase for everybody to remember and keep close to your heart. It's none of my business what you say about me.
Fair enough. I like that.
It's none of my business what you say about me. That's what I read. And then I say, that's your business, your energy. And if you're thinking bad things about me, that's your responsibility. Anyway, there we go. So the table topic, so we've only really got about 15 minutes left. But so my epiphany was, and just to get you up to speed, as you know, I'm building an online academy. In fact, to tell you, the viewers as well, I've created something called the Infinity Learning Academy, and I was teaching for 12 years at the university here in Chiang Mai, teaching teachers studying for their masters in teaching English to speakers of other languages. So they were doing their masters in TESOL, and I would teach two main courses called Teaching Language Skills and Classroom Inquiry. And halfway through this period of time, after a few years, I realized that how I had been taught to teach, and now that I was teaching teachers, and now that I had discovered that diet can absolutely shape my health and improve my health, when I changed my diet back in 2008. So all these things I was doing and learning at the time, it suddenly occurred to me, look, each year I get about 15 new students. I want this content and what I'm teaching, I want this to go out into the world. Furthermore, I've also been, in my time, I've taught about maybe 3,000 or 4,000 students, including about 500 teachers. And all my students have come from about 35 countries in the world. So I've met and being a traveler, I've met thousands of other people from various different countries. So I have a lot of experience in my life talking and meeting lots of different people from all walks of life, from dozens of countries, and from all five. And furthermore, I've actually been to all 5 continents. I've added it up. I've been to over 20 countries. So with all that as a background, I have been building for the last 2 years my online venture. I finished writing my book. It took 8 years. I self-published it 2 years ago. And then suddenly, nobody knows about my book. I've got to promote it. So suddenly I'm on my path to bring a proper life affirmative, heart-based education to the world. But the trouble is, we can't educate children like that if we, the parents and the educators and the teachers and the leaders, went to that same school system, because the school system suppresses us and hides us from our innate talents and our innate intelligence, our inner beauty, and it just treads all over our human essence. So we become the next round of parents and teachers. And so much as we love our children, want to help them, we haven't got the skills and we haven't got the know-how because nobody ever taught it to us. So a spiritual revolution is to change all that. So my epiphany, Ben, was, was I going to teach the home educating parents? Was I going to teach the teachers? What was I going to do? Now, I'm used to teaching teachers, but I can teach anybody. Especially leaders and parents and educators and coaches and activists and gurus and all kinds of people. Because when you work with other people, your success with other people, the success of your relationships depends on two things maybe. Most thing of all is your communication skills. If you're a good communicator, that means you're a good listener. You can articulate yourself. You can learn from listening to others. You can learn from listening to yourself. You can learn from speaking to others and finding out what they think of what you think, and so on. So the better a communicator you are, the more loving relationships you'll have, and the more success you'll have at work, the more happy you'll be at home, and so on. So going back to what I read from the Osho book, a quick path towards more selfishness is to learn how to become a good communicator. And I will tell you that most people's listening skills are very poor, reading skills are very poor, speaking skills, well, now in this day and age, we all self-censor ourselves, because if we speak out, Russell Brand is, we're going to be the next Russell Brand. So my epiphany was, what am I actually going to teach, Ben? What's my first online course going to be? And the epiphany was, okay, I need to step back and take step one. So my epiphany is, well, why don't I teach a spiritual revolution?
Which is the title of your book?
No, the title of the book is Menu for a Spiritual Revolution, Health, Harmony, and Happiness. Okay. So the point of spirituality here is that we want health, harmony, and happiness in our world. And living spiritually, to me, is living in harmony. And if our minds are too stressed, and if our bodies are too sick, and if our spirit and soul is too empty, and if we're worrying all the time what other people think about us, and blah, 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 and if we're too busy to see the daylight and the nature and to watch the bees and the butterflies and listen to the birds and all that sort of thing, we've lost touch with who we are. And we have become alienated, and that's why we need the spiritual journey to reconnect ourselves to nature, and to connect myself with you and within myself, because I have a body, I have a mind, I have a soul, I have a spirit, I have a consciousness. There's a whole part of me. So what I want, yeah.
What? So in a brief term, what is the table topic?
So well, the topic. Well, it's not really a table topic as such. It's that I'm going to set up a course, and I'm going to teach it first of all in Chiang Mai now at our tea house. And so that I'm going to look for 8 students, and I'm going to do this course. And I don't teach. I enable and facilitate learning to happen. And furthermore, it's not knowledge that's so important, although that is important, crucial knowledge that we don't have. But it's the skills. So the spiritual revolution is a journey of self-inquiry. Now, let me ask you, what does self-inquiry mean to you?
What does self-inquiry? It means learning about, it means kind of exploring who I am, how I respond to events in life, the patterns that I exude and play out. And just sort of, the who I am, I suppose.
And can you see that as being a beneficial thing to do?
I feel like it. I try to do that, and I feel like it allows me to narrow the gap between who I think I am and how I show up in the world.
Brilliant.
Because I think that's what it does, and I can approach the world honestly. This is what I believe, or I try to do, because I'm objectively trying to look at myself, my failures, my successes, my qualities, and so that's what self-inquiry means to me.
Brilliant. So one of the courses I taught the teachers at the university was called classroom inquiry, and the nub of this was that the whole purpose of the course was for the teachers to stop assuming what was going on in their classroom, to stop assuming what the students were like, to stop assuming what their teaching was like, and to actually take direct action research to find out. So get rid of the assumption, get rid of the beliefs, and find out what's really happening. So let's just change classroom inquiry to self-inquiry. So now, instead of investigating what's going on in the classroom, which is the environment where the learning takes place, now I have to investigate what's going on inside my skin.
And is this
that's my inner environment? Sorry,
I'm just trying to get a bearing on this as a table topic. And is this to do with the question, what does spirituality mean to you? Is it about spiritual revolution? What are you trying to share with me and with the viewers that you want to impart about spirituality?
Well, this is part of the problem, that if you're not living with it, you need to read the book, you need to take a course, you need to be guided, or you need to do it yourself. Now, I've spent decades on this journey. I've spent literally tens of thousands of hours reflecting on my hammock, doing research, thinking here, thinking there, going to nature, spending time on my own to work things out, to look at the human condition. It's a long journey. What my job is, and what I'm trying to do, and it's not so much a table topic as such, is that I just wanted to share with you, what I'm going to do now with my venture, and see if you had any reactions to it. But if people want to harmonize themselves, if people want to live in an optimal state of health for their own body and mind, if people want to fulfill their life, if people want to feel meaning in their life, if they want to enjoy their life, and most importantly, if they want to get to their deathbed and not have a million regrets because it's too late, then you need to do something now. And then most people will say, well, I'm too busy, I haven't got time to do it. Well, if you haven't got time to help yourself, then you haven't really got time to live. So then the question would be, what are you doing here? Now, everybody can have a really concerted, busy period of time in their life. But if you're constantly busy forevermore, you're missing life. Now, that might be fine. And people do this. They struggle through, this is what they do. They put their head down and struggle as much as they can. But we're humans, we don't need to struggle. And that's what this huge time of, these transitional times and these terrible times we're in, I think humans have gone so far astray, and we've perverted our intelligence, and we're living a shadow of who we could be without our human essence. We're spiritually empty, we're psychologically screwed, and we're physically out of shape, and we're eating all these wrong foods, and we are in a serious mess. And we either accept it and just put our head down until we die, or we try and do something about it. Now, really, all I'm going to say, and we only really ended up with 15 minutes for this sort of topic, but all I want to say is that to you and to all the viewers is that the only solution to your life, if you want a solution, if you want a healthier, happier, more harmonious life with less stress, less conflict, less arguments in your relationships with the people that you love, if you want to upgrade yourself, then you can't just do something like a New Year's resolution, because by February the 1st, it's finished. You're back to normal. So really, the table topic, if you like, Ben, is that if people want to upgrade their life, you have to take time out, spend energy, maybe spend money, spend time. You've got to invest in yourself to bring your potential out into the world instead of hiding it from everybody, because we were all so badly brought up by the nurturing process of the system, and the system eats its own. I think that's all I really wanting to say, is that the spiritual revolution is a sped up piece of journey of self-inquiry, leading to self-discovery, leading to self-knowledge, puts you into self-growth, and now you can evolve until the final day of your life. you'll get to your deathbed and you will pass through to the next world peacefully without regret because you lived your life. And that's the thing. So spiritual revolution is the transitional, it's the bridge from your old ways into the new ways. It's the bridge. And then what you learn, and what I'll teach on my course, is that everybody will develop and master their communication skills, their learning skills, their leadership skills, their relationship skills. They will build confidence, courage, compassion, consciousness, and they will learn about language and meaning and psychology and relationships and spirituality and health and diet and wellness and the whole lot. And if you want it, you have to do it on your own. You have to spend thousands of hours doing it, or you can come to me and read my book and or do one of my courses. And I can tell you now, listeners and viewers, that within a year, finally, I've been building this thing for years and I'm now literally ready to act. And I have to act. I've gone through a lot of pain. I'm only talking what I've walked. I never present third-hand information unless I say this is what Osho says, this is what Krishnamurti says, this is what Dr. Bruce Lipton says, and so on. So yeah, it's not a topic as such, Ben, because we sort of spent most of our podcast on the two reports, but really it's just to say that if we want to optimize our lives, we have to invest in ourselves. Yeah, I guess that's it.
I would almost label it, because I don't know, maybe it's me and my need for order. You know, a spiritual revolution clarified and optimized, something like that.
Sorry, a spiritual revolution clarified
and optimized.
Right.
Because, you know, what I see that you're bringing to the table is the spiritual revolution brand, a spiritual revolution as a brand, but then also as a practical and very necessary part of the transitionary process that is non-negotiable, everyone. There's no choice about this now, okay? Yeah. And I think that's the point to realize as we begin to wind down this episode, is that... Go on.
Yeah, you've just reminded me, that's what I keep meaning to try and say, that according to my observations and my reflections of many years, a spiritual revolution, sorry, just to confirm to individual, is an individual revolution of you, by you, for you, but it's the only solution for you and it's the only solution for humankind. I've never found another solution, and that's why it's time to push it out there and get it out there and get people onto it. And you're absolutely right, Ben. It's a practical journey that you take. And I'm just starting up a new group on Facebook, which I'm calling Practical Spirituality, because it's not woo-woo fluff and it's not, oh, God wins at the end of the day and love conquers all. Yeah, God's fantastic, love's fantastic, but you've got to be a warrior. You know, you can't let all these, you know, all these media manipulators and all these miserable people impact on us. We have to change our foundations within ourselves, and now we can weather any storm, and now we can be happy and respect ourselves and love ourselves. And now all we want to do, as Osho said, is share it and get it out into the world. And if you're miserable, you won't like me. And if you want to be happy and you're already a little bit happy, you will love me.
Yeah. And as I said, it's non-negotiable. The way that I see it right now, with the events unfolding in the world that are being forced upon humanity, and the clear signs, and I just love that term, revelation, of the actors and the players behind the scene showing themselves, i.e. the media getting so desperate that the patterns of how they scapegoat people and attack people, it's so obvious now. It's revealing itself because we're in this turbulent transitionary phase. And in regards to what you said, Phil, along the lines and the tangent of this podcast so far, that we are going through this whether we like it or not. You can't. And so it's about how, as individuals, you and I respond to this calling. Do we stand up and face it through our own growth, through our own strengthening, through our own choice to refute or essentially, just turn away from the directions we are being forced into? Do we embrace the challenges of our own growth? For me right now, I'd say that is diet. the thing that I really want to work on, and what you're talking about, that spiritual revolution, the thing, and I think it's the same for many people. Many people that at least can relate to it. I feel like that a change in my diet will really upgrade not only my physical health, but my mental, my spirituality, my spiritual health. So I think just wanted to really round off, because what you're saying, because that epiphany you had, that the workshop you want to do is a spiritual revolution. The reason why that was so meaningful for me is because it combines all of yourself as a brand into one coordinated, cohesive tangent, the spiritual revolution. But in the context of this episode and this podcast, it's about embracing that attitude to evolve ourselves spiritually,
Yes.
to be an active player in the force for good amongst humanity that will be required in order to get through this period of transition.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. It is non-negotiable. We're past the point of no return. We can't just be an ostrich anymore and stick our head in the sand. Yeah, you've got all these experts and gurus who want you to be dependent upon them. So what I would just say is that even though we may have gone down the path there, we never stop growing. So don't follow me, don't go with me, grow with me, because I'm never stopping growing and I'm never stopping learning. I may be a teacher, but I'm a teacher that doesn't teach. I'm a teacher that deals with learning, because learning is the most amazing thing on the planet. And yeah, that's it. That's it, Ben. You know, you've summed it up nicely. You know, if I extended the name, I would say a spiritual revolution is the only solution.
Yeah, and I think that's a calling to anyone who's listening to this, whatever time, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever you are, is that let's grow together. You know, let's step into the challenge that's being presented to us, because our hand is being forced, and it's only through pain and struggle that we can actually grow. You know, that's the best environment for the ultimate growth. So whatever it is that you know intrinsically within yourself is your own opportunity for growth, be it being able to express yourself more clearly, not worrying what other people think, being more disciplined with the diet, exercise, inner talk, you know, conscious language to yourself, whatever it is, step into that right now as much as you can.
So yes, exactly. The quality of that knowing and understanding you talked about begins, and you can't do a spiritual revolution, and you can't become the person you need to be unless you first focus on diet, as you said. Diet has a massive impact on our mental connection and relationship with the world. If you're eating processed foods and refined foods and corporate made foods, you are poisoning yourself. Full stop. End of story.
Okay, well, it's been an interesting discussion, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what next week brings to the table. I believe I'll be bringing something to the table. Is that right?
Yeah, you can bring the main theme next week, and we might get half an hour for it one day.
Yeah. I hope this has been of interest to the listeners out there. As I said at the beginning, we are evolving this as we go along. It's a naturally, organically evolving podcast. And so bear with us. I hope that we do inform and entertain. And yeah, it's been a real pleasure talking with you today, Phil. And I'm looking forward to next week.
Yeah, nice one, mate. Yeah, come along with us and grow with us. We're growing.
Yeah, let's grow together.
We're not aging, we're growing.
Let's grow together. Let's grow together.
Indeed, nice one. All right, mate. Well, so we'll catch up next week, and thank you very much to all the viewers and listeners for imbibing our little chat.
Next week, see you then. Stay tuned and look forward to it. Take care.
Cheerio, mate.